Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Jim Summers. Jim Summers is the Chief Marketing Officer at CipherHealth. He brings over 25 years of senior leadership experience to CipherHealth with a focus on SaaS technology across a wide array of IT sectors, including unified communications and collaboration, mobility, marketing automation, and cybersecurity. Jim's range of knowledge has made him instrumental in driving marketing at startup companies, as well as making him a strategic growth agent at larger publicly traded companies. Most recently, Jim served as the head of marketing for LogMeIn's Unified Communication and Collaboration business unit, where he was instrumental in launching the new GoTo brand and product portfolio, including GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar, as well as the latest GoToConnect and GoToRoom
Well,
products.
good afternoon, Jim. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome, Jim. I appreciate you jumping on a call, and this is great. I'm kind of, my background takes me in health tech, healthcare for many years, and now I'm kind of back into it with you today on the show. So I appreciate it. Jim, we're going to jump into the questions. You've got quite the career working in marketing, strategy. Now you're the Chief Marketing Officer at CipherHealth. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
Yeah, I would say what inspires me is simply disruption. Market disruption is what really gets me charged up. And more specifically, it's the application of social media, mobile, cloud technologies. And over the years, their proven ability to flip industries on their head, helping companies and industries unlock new growth, driving new productivity and efficiencies, and, most importantly, making people's lives better. And sometimes that's, the employee as well as the consumer. And it's that balance there that's very interesting to me and inspirational. As far as a secret, I'm not sure if I have a secret or not, but, my career has really been two basic parts. The first part was my time early on in marketing. That was my bedrock. I started my career, ironically, when classic advertising was winding down. I learned a lot about the art and science of branding, positioning, and research from some of the greats, Jim Jordan, Martin Puris, and David Ogilvy. But really it was the second half when I left advertising, went to work at AT&T, where my job charter was to take all these amazing innovations at the time from Bell Labs and apply them to retain AT&T's millions of customers. And that was really the jumping off point for me into this amazing journey of tech innovation we've seen over the last 30 years. So I don't think it's a secret, but my career has been to radically simplify new and emerging technology and then convince the buyers that it is a must-have and not a like to have or a nice to have. And doing this really through sound research and interesting stories to show the outcomes and the art of the possible.
I love that. I think you're right on point, and it really aligns with what we talk about on our platform as well. So, Jim, I appreciate that. And Jim, we want to shift into this pandemic, right? As you know, Everybody around the world has had to make these major shifts to adapt to the new normal. Could you share with us what you're doing to help your organization stay relevant in this economy?
Yeah, well, certainly it's been a crazy year. Personally, I don't think I've worn a belt in a year. I live in a world of of loungewear, it feels like. But, I joined CipherHealth a year ago, almost to the day. I was really at that time looking for something more mission-based. And, the past year, I think in particular, has taught all of us the importance of what it means to be agile, adaptable, and resourceful, no matter what industry, and whether it's healthcare or e-commerce or hospitality. Markets, industries, businesses are being torn down to the studs and rebuilt everywhere. And I think for me and the organization, as the old expression goes, we've had to all kind of turn into the skid. As things rotate and you're on ice here, you don't want to overreact and slam the brakes, but rather turn into it and embrace that change. But you have to be quick about it and don't hurry. Well, there's like a basketball coach, I think John Wooden said, be quick, but don't hurry, was what he said. And I think we all have to remember that. Looking at healthcare in particular and what we're doing about it, we're doing two things, essentially. We're first going back to basics and listening to all of our customers and what they're dealing with. Yes, it's tough, certainly in this climate in healthcare, to get in front of new customers, knowing what they're all dealing with in this market environment. So it's important for us to stay in front of them, delight them first and foremost, and service their needs and challenges as they're having to adapt. So, it's the old retention has become the new growth in a lot of ways. Secondly, it's been this realization that innovation is not always about brand new products and technology. That's certainly important, but it's how you apply your current technology to current situations and what are innovative challenges. In our market, unforeseen changes to business processes have meant we've had to repackage our current solutions and apply them to new pain points, whether it's the vaccination rollouts, staff burnout and PTSD, patient consumerization, virtual health, all of these trends we've had to respond to quickly and help our customers address those. So those are really the two things that we focused on at these very interesting and fluid times that we're living in.
I appreciate you sharing that. And everybody's story is unique, obviously, with the challenges of this pandemic. But I appreciate your share with the rise to meet this challenge. And Jim, we're going to get into the next question, which is really what our platform's about. We just like to know if you or CipherHealth are leveraging any new or emerging technologies, and maybe there's something you can share, and maybe it's just a cool app or tool that you found useful.
Yeah, it's before CipherHealth, I had never been in healthcare. It's a brand new industry for me. And as I said before, I was looking to do something really innovative and different and disruptive for me personally. I've spent my career in, mobile applications, early days of marketing automation, unified communications, and so forth. But this is truly the most disruptive situation I found myself in and around a specific industry. There was one company that I worked for back, probably 20 years ago called CapturePoint. It was in my hometown in Ridgewood, New Jersey. And essentially what the business was doing, it was small. It was me and two partners, and we had about 10 other employees, and we were marketing and selling to large educational publishers, things like databases and e-commerce systems and the like. Well, right around that time, 9/11 hit our community hard. We lost 15 or 16 people in Ridgewood, another 10 or 11 in Glen Rock right next door. And we sat there and looked at each other and said, the world has changed. The world is different, much like what we're going through today. We said, what can we do? And we walked 2 doors down to Borough Hall, and we said, what can we do to help? And they said, what you can do for us is really help build a community bulletin board. So much is changing. We need to communicate with our community. And we did that. We spent the night doing that. We launched it, and they were so incredibly appreciative. To us, it was simple technology. To them, it was absolutely innovative. And that evolved into something around doing a new website, a content management system for the borough. And what we were doing there spread to other towns in New Jersey, spread up and down the Eastern Seaboard nationally. And CapturePoint ultimately changed the name of the company to a company called Community Pass, and completely disrupted itself around a very interesting time, and being fearless and saying, what can we do to help? And, that was the only time in my career that I actually carried a bag. And it was an incredible experience for me, because what I realized is that innovation and technology is all relative. It's relative to the situation you're in. It's relative to who you're selling to, and what may seem like is not all that technologically advanced really is to those end users. And knowing that, and ultimately how you're able to help lives. And we're doing that at CipherHealth. And a lot of our technology may not seem innovative at its core to some people with, phone calls and text messages. But to the people at the end of the dirt road who are getting those calls from their hospital provider and asking how they're doing, that's innovation, and that's disruptive. So that's sort of my message, is that, to anybody, it's being relative and being also fearless and taking those chances.
Great. I appreciate that story. And I think that will definitely resonate with a lot of people sharing that story around 9/11 and how you learned from that experience. So thank you, Jim. And Jim, real quick, we're going to wrap up here.
Sure.
Everybody wants to know a little bit more about Jim Summers. Could you just share something from your career experience that might be helpful for those looking to grow their career in marketing or leadership?
Yeah, I think certainly, that last experience obviously had a very profound impact on me personally. I would say there was, at one point in my career, I worked for a company called Antenna Software. And right when I started, my product manager said, listen, I have a very tricky situation. I'm going to have to resign. And if you want to hire me as a contract, that would be great. But I have a child with incredibly challenging medical needs. And it was really hard. And over the course of the following 5 or 6 years, we made it work together. And he was absolutely incredible, game-changing. He now works at Gartner as a leading analyst there. And for me, when his child unfortunately passed after several years, it was at his funeral, and he said, I just want to call out somebody. He didn't mention, of course, me, my name and the team, but it was sort of, he said that moment really was important to me in my life. And that was probably the most impactful professional moment in my entire career, to be honest. And what it means is that we have to be all human in our jobs and really focus intently on your team and the dynamics of the team. And as a leader, that's truly the most important thing you can do, is build those relationships, establish trust, find people that care, and people that all collectively want to make a difference. And for me, that was probably one of the proudest, if not the proudest moment of my professional career.
That is a great story. And I'm glad, Jim, that you shared that today. That definitely is going to inspire some people, but also help people realize the importance of the human connection and what life's about, not just, punching a time clock. So,
Yeah.
Jim, I do appreciate that. That's a very special story. And Jim, it was a pleasure having you on today. And I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy you asked me to join you, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. Bye for now.